Welcome to Sales Secrets from the Top 1%, where the world's best sales experts share their secrets to sales success. My name is Bornancin, a serial salesperson and entrepreneur, and I'm sitting down with the world's best sales experts to share their top secrets to sales success. Hello and welcome to this episode of Sales Secrets from the Top 1%, where the world's best sales experts share their secrets to sales success. And I am thrilled, honored, humbled, and grateful to have with me today Heather Monahan. Heather is the founder of Boss in Heels. She's the former Chief Revenue Officer of Beasley Media Group and author of one of my top favorite books. You got to pick it up, The Confidence Creator, the #1 business motivation and self-improvement book on Amazon. It's a game changer. Heather is also the keynote speaker and most recently was interviewed on the Steve Harvey Show with Connie Barrows and Carrie Champion. Heather's been featured in Forbes, USA Today, CNN, has been a guest on the Elvis Duran Show, the Dr. Drew podcast, and many more. Heather is literally the boss in heels. Heather, thank you so much for joining us today.
It's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so we're thrilled to dive in. We've got a lot to cover, but the audience is dying to know two things. #1, sales secrets from the top 1%, where the world's best sales experts share their secrets to sales success. What is your #1 top sales secrets out of your entire career? What is the one thing that you would tell people, your top secret to maximize their sales success? And before we get into that, though, the audience is dying to know, who is Heather Monahan? Where'd you come from? What's your background? How'd you get started in sales? And where have you, everywhere that you've worked, tell us a little bit about the successes and failures, which we call micro secrets, that have helped you level up to do the next thing and the next thing, which lead us into where you're at today and your top sales secret. So without further ado, Heather, I'd love to learn more about you and who are you? Where'd you come from?
Wow, that's a lot. Okay, so I grew up poor. My mother was a single mom with 4 kids. She worked 3 jobs. And so what we learned, or what I specifically learned at a young age.
That's so hard.
Yeah, it was really challenging. But when you don't know any different, that's just life. So to me, I thought life was just a really challenging place where everyone struggles. And then as I grew a bit older, I started thinking, I'm in this lane over here, which is this, I'm kind of down, insecure, struggling to get by. And then there's other people that are in this lane that's really beautiful and amazing, and they're happy and thriving. And I just thought as a child, that was the way life was, because I didn't know any different. As so many people grow up, with challenging times, I believe feel that same way. So the first thing that I remember as a kid was I just wanted to work, because I knew if I could create income, I wouldn't have to struggle as much. So I started with a paper route. Then I started babysitting. Then I started being a busboy. Then I started working at a fast food restaurant, then waiting tables. And each step is progressively making more income. And then I got into bartending. And bartending and waitressing were like the ultimate sales gigs from day one for me. So I started waitressing, I think I was probably 14 or 15 years old. And I learned if you want to get a big tip, people needed to like you. They needed to see that you were hustling, attending to their needs. So that's really where I first started getting into sales. And then as a bartender working through college, I asked one of my clients, or whatever, I don't know what you call someone when they come into a bar, but whoever, these people, the regulars that would come in, I would say, how do you make so much money? And it always ended up that the people were in sales that drove the BMWs and the Mercedes.
Right.
And I just started thinking, you know what, I've got to check this thing out. And I would encourage everyone. I was so wrong. I was just chasing a paycheck. And I did that for so much of my life. And that was the wrong answer. Had I pursued my dreams and what was inside of me from my heart, I believe things would be very different today. So that's something that I learned at 44 years old, 43 actually last year. I really figured that out. But anyway, so I pursued the paycheck and I graduated college and I went right to work for the Gallo Winery as a salesperson.
Was that a lot of fun?
Well, I think back then it was 1% of the employees were female. It was really hard. I got sexually harassed at work. I was told by other women not to wear my hair down, not to wear skirts, that I was sending a negative message being who I was. And all of these things kind of compounded on me. And I started trying to look different, act different than who I really was. And it really affected me in a negative way. However, I was so driven by wanting to make the paycheck and wanting to do well. I just outworked everybody. And 7 days a week, whether I was at home at night or on the weekends, I was putting together game plans, looking at optimizing my week, talking to myself about, okay, what could I improve on right now? What is a new prospect for me to go after? I was constantly working hard. So I was able to become the top salesperson there within a couple of months' time. And then I was the youngest brand manager for the state. And then I got sexually harassed and I quit because I didn't have the confidence to really stand up for myself and say, you can't speak to me like this. This is illegal. I just ran away and left. And then that turn of events led me to radio at a very young age, my early 20s. I met.
Oh yeah. And what'd you, just real quick. So you became the top rep there. Was that from, you said a lot of hard work, a lot of like making the calls in your off time. Like what were the secrets, to your success during that time when you were doing that?
I believe that the majority of those reps were extremely complacent, and everyone looked the same. It was all white men between the ages of 25 and 50. It was this very vanilla group. And when I joined, I was very different, partly because I was female, but I back then, I don't know that I could have articulated this, but owning what's unique and different about you and stepping into that as a power is a really fantastic way to sell, because it's about owning what's different about you. And I believe that I did that in a way that was able to differentiate me from everybody else. Being a woman allowed me to pay much more attention to detail, allowed me to provide better customer service, different things that I brought that these other guys that had been on the team forever and did it a certain way, they didn't really pay attention to. So I was unique versus my peers in some regards, some stylistic approaches that I believe allowed me to, move quickly. And then they were lazy. So I just essentially outworked most of them. And if you have a phenomenal work ethic, you can beat anyone in sales. It's fact. It's all about the ask and how many asks you have out there. It's a numbers game.
I love that. That's so awesome. Just straight hustling and hard work pulled it off. And then you were going into, it's unfortunate about the sexual stuff, the harassment or what, going into, so you leave and then you're like, okay, now what? Did you know what you wanted to do after that? Or like,
no,
what happened right after that?
I was petrified and I was really down. And I went to a dinner with my then boyfriend, an event, and I met an owner of a radio station. And at the event, I was chatting him up and he said, "You've got to come work for me." And I said, "You can't afford me." And he said, "How much?" And this is where I would implore everyone, please do your homework first. Had I Googled this man, I would have known he was worth $100 million, but I didn't know. So I threw out the number 80,000, thinking for me, that was a huge number at the time. He said, "Sold, done deal. You're hired for $80,000. And I look back again, it's so important to negotiate and not throw a number out or never a lowball number. But when you don't know who you're pitching, you're in the dark. And
that's another micro secret.
Yeah, absolutely. You need to do your homework on people. And luckily now I could have stepped away and Googled him and found out enough to at least have some savviness in my approach. But back then, I just had no idea. And I was excited he was hiring me. So I went to work for him. And right away I was killing it. And it was very similar to selling wine because ultimately it's outside sales. So you're all about, making the calls, getting face-to-face contact. How many asks do you have out there? Upselling people, great customer service, all the basics that I learned at Gallo. I was just delivering that now with a different product in mind. And so it was not hard to do. And I did very, very well. My first year, I became the number one seller on the sales team. And
Damn.
right then, my boyfriend I lived with cheated on me. So when that happened, I got really down and I was going to work, just feeling bad for myself. And the owner saw me. He said, something's wrong with you. So I confided in him and he said, how about this? Why don't you and I hop on a plane together? And I'm not going to tell you where we're going. If you really want to go to make money and a name for yourself in business, you'll get on this plane with me. I'm going to make you my partner in a new company that I'm launching, but I can't tell you where I'm going. It's going to get you out of this situation because I didn't want to run into the ex-boyfriend and this and that. So I just said, you know what? Yes, I'm going to close my eyes and go. And I got on a plane with him and I moved to Saginaw, Michigan.
Okay. And hold on, before we get into this exciting story. So you become the number one rep at the radio station. So you were selling the outside sales, the radio ads, right?
Yes.
Okay. Awesome. To all the companies that should advertise on the radio station.
So it was small businesses like plumbers, fitness companies. It could be auto dealers.
And anyone that should be advertising with
Sure.
you guys, small business and mid-market. Okay, that makes total sense. How did you in 1 year you became the top rep? How did you do that? What was it secret there and how did you do it?
Again, I learned the basic sales principles when I worked for Gallo. They had a great training program. So I understood, sales is a numbers game. You need to deal with the ultimate decision maker. You need to go face to face to make connections with people. You need to provide phenomenal follow-up and customer service, all the basics. If you want the order, you need to go for the close. Don't take a blow off. One big thing I learned from my boss back then was, oh, I didn't get the contract signed today. And he'd say, why not? Oh, they said they had to speak to their other partners. And he would be livid with me. And I learned qualify on that front end. So on that first call, when you meet with someone and you're getting a good rapport, ask, if I had the best idea in the world for you right now and it financially worked for you, that investment worked, would you be the person that could sign off on that? Or would you need to speak to someone else? And so I learned over time from my old boss, who was a phenomenal salesperson, that, qualifying things in a very simplistic way early on will save you so much time and BS from people later on because they can't use that trick on you later because you can say, wait a minute, we had this discussion and you did say you were the ultimate decision maker. And that's when you pull the contract out and drop the pen and say, it's time for us to sign this thing and get it done.
That's so awesome. Yeah, it's funny. I was just coaching my team yesterday on how they have to map the DM and figure out who it is. Who else other than this person that you're pitching is involved in that process? What do they need to see to say yes? Where's the priority? It sounds like the decision making mapping, the qualifying was critical for you. The hard work and the numbers still, applying a lot of the training. Anything else that you think really propelled that success there?
That my old boss that I worked for back then was big in every call you go for the close. He's the most aggressive salesperson I've ever worked for in my life. And I'm not saying this approach is for everyone. However, what he taught me was to get out of my comfort zone. It's very nerve-wracking in your early 20s when you're selling a product you don't know much about to ask for the close on every call. But what he taught me was to be very efficient because I always had contracts with me. I always walked in with a pen and I knew I was pulling that pen out before I left and asking them to sign. Once you get in the habit of doing something, it becomes very easy and it's second nature. So again, I'm not saying it's the best approach in the world, but for me, it really allowed me to break through. And I learned how to become a very strong closer because I was closing. I would go on 10 pitches a day and I'd pitch to close 10 times a day. So you begin to figure out, it's like riding a bike. The more you ride it, the faster you're going to go and stronger you're going to get. Yeah. And for me, I got really strong at the close.
That's so sick. And 99, I feel like most salespeople are scared of that. If you can master that, if you don't close, you don't win. Everyone loses in the deal. Customer doesn't benefit from your radio stuff. Your company doesn't benefit. You don't benefit. Your family doesn't benefit. No one benefits in any value creation without getting the deal done. That's really cool that you went for the close. And then your boss, so he was the boss at Galloway, or was he the boss at the radio station?
At the radio station. But one of the ways that I help people to learn to close is as a sales leader, I would run contests for my employees, and I would have it be the no contest. And what that means is I wanted everyone to go out every day conducting business as usual, but I wanted to see all the contracts where someone wrote, no, I will not do this. So it forced my people to ask for the close in a different way, where they weren't afraid to get a no. They almost celebrated the no because they could win the contest. And that allowed some of them that had holdbacks around closing to kind of break through and become more, at ease.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So then you're crushing it. And I assume, was your boyfriend at the time, did he work at the radio station?
No, he had a Budweiser distributor.
Okay. So there wasn't any like drama at work, but your boss could just tell like I
was just really
it
down.
Threw you off completely.
Right.
And he comes to you with like, hey, jump on a plane, follow me. You don't know what it is. You don't know where you're going, but I need a partner. And I think you'd be a great partner.
Yeah, I'd been working for him for a year, but he wasn't going to stay with me. He was dropping me there. I was going to be the man on the ground. He was going to be the money behind the scenes and the person that would coach me from afar. But he was leaving me there on my own to run this company on his and my behalf.
Okay, so you don't know what it is. You jump in the plane. Walk us through this. What happens next? Where'd you guys go?
I landed in Saginaw, Michigan, and that was really hard because I definitely am a city person. I love big cities. I never imagined living somewhere very rural in the Midwest, and there's a lot of cornfields and deer, and it was not that idyllic place that I wanted to go. So again, I found myself really struggling. I was alone, bummed out, living, out in the boonies in the Midwest, didn't know anybody. And I was going to walk into work Monday morning we had bought a 5-station property radio stations group. And I was walking in as their new boss. And I was, much younger than everyone. I was female. And it was my first time on my own running an operation. So that was a challenging time for me.
And did you know it was radio before like you landed into Michigan?
I knew it was radio because that was my old boss's expertise and his passion. So I was sure that it was going to be basically the same thing that we had, but we had been running one property and now he had bought 5 different stations and had consolidated them. So it was a much bigger operation than I expected.
That's so awesome. So, okay, you're coming in younger. You're coming in as a female, and at the time, leadership, weren't a lot of females based on what you said. So what happens next? So now you're like the GM. You're running this 5 radio stations in what city in Michigan?
In Saginaw, Michigan.
Saginaw, Michigan. And it's funny because like we've got an office here in Columbus, Ohio, and New York, and half my team's in Florida. I know you're in Miami. So we have an office in the Midwest, and most of us are from the Midwest. So like Columbus isn't bad. I don't know anything about that city in Michigan, but okay. So then what happens?
So it was tough at first because people did not want to work for me. And there was all kinds of rumors that I must have slept my way to the top. And how could this young girl, be running a $25 million property? And that was a tough time because I had to earn respect. However, I didn't have the time to earn anyone's respect because I'm under the gun. The whole mission and purpose of me going there was to take that property and turn it around in 1 to 3 years so that we could flip it for a sale and make a huge profit. In order to do that, when you want to accelerate revenues and really have a massive trajectory, you have to spike revenue fast. So to do that, I had to get people on my team that wanted to run through a wall for me, that would make unlimited amount of calls a day and deliver on every commitment that they made to clients so that we could really make this happen quickly. I had no relationships in the market. I didn't know anyone, and the people working for me didn't want to work for me. So what I really did was I put it on my own back, and I got out and started driving sales on day 2. And showing these people what I was capable of. And I started bringing in bigger deals than they had ever seen because I just went for it and expected I would get it. And that started shaking things up on the team. And people started saying, did you see how much money she brought in yesterday and what she's doing? And slowly I started weeding out the negative people, finding and identifying talent. And
is that a secret? Like get rid of the negative naysayers?
Oh my gosh, this is a chapter in my book, Firing the Villains. There is nothing more important in anyone's life than firing the villains that are holding you down or trying to hold you back. The minute you break free from them, you can really start to take off.
Yeah, it's I love that chapter in the book because it took me, I mean, still young, but I didn't fire all the villains until I was like 28, 29. And oh my gosh, I wish I did it like 20. I just would have been so much farther ahead of my life, like not keeping the villains in your life and not letting them hold your goals, your dreams, your vision back. So that was one of the things you did. What were some of the other things you did you like literally like went heads down and just started selling like crazy?
Yeah,
kind of like lead by leaders, like lead by example. That was awesome.
Yeah, leadership by example definitely works. And back then, I didn't know that transparency was key in leadership. So I didn't allow people to really get to know me. So I could have made things happen more quickly, but I didn't have that tool in my tool belt back then. I wasn't aware of that. So I really tried to keep this strong, tough appearance to protect myself and try to gain some type of leverage with these people. But over time, they got to know me. And as that happened, they would try to help me and introduce me to people in the community and help me build a better team. And then we started doing things like sales contests and events together as a team. And as we created a positive culture in the workplace, everyone started assisting one another. And then within 3 years, we took that $25 million property and delivered a sale for $57 million and more than doubled the price in under 3 years and had a huge success out there.
Wow. And if you had to pinpoint it to one thing out of all the things that you did, and we named off like a bunch, what would you say the one thing is that helped you more than double the revenue? If you had
changing the culture, that was the biggest thing. People had been very complacent there, and we've always done it this way. That adage is prevalent in many businesses and companies, and my goal was to innovate and do it differently. So I would have that conversation with people right away. I don't want to do it the way we've always done it. That got us here. We're going to the next level, which means we're going to do it differently. And I'd love to hear your ideas. I'd love to hear you be a part of it. And that's how I would start to turn those people, and the ones that wouldn't turn, I'd fire them.
Yeah, that's so awesome. Change the culture. We got to go to the next level. What are your ideas to make it happen? And if you can't get on board and make it happen, then you're just it's not a good fit for us. Good fit for you is what it sounds like.
Exactly.
Awesome. So you guys crush it. You sell it. 3 years, more than double. Man, that's crazy. That's so cool. So then what's next?
So the company that had purchased us wanted to force me to stay there, and they didn't know that they didn't know I was leaving the day that place sold. So I could no longer work for my old boss, who I had been with for 4.5 years. Yeah. And I was really bummed out. I had enough money that I didn't need to work for a few years. I could take time off, but I was so young. I thought, you know what? I've never not worked. I need to get back to a city, and I need to get to a bigger company. So I moved to Florida. And I moved to Naples, Florida first to work for a publicly traded company, a Beasley Radio. And I took a step back and I took a smaller role, and I ran just their Naples, Florida operation, which was much smaller than the operation I ran in Michigan. And I did that to get into the company. And within the first couple of months, I weeded out the negative people. I started changing the culture. I started accelerating revenues very quickly myself. And when that happened, I went and met with the president of the company, and I said, listen, I'm looking around your organization, and I'm going to show you what's going on. I walked into this operation. The culture was negative. People were complacent. There were no metrics involved. No one was measuring how many calls a day. There was no evaluations happening. There was no reviews happening, no incentives. We need to build what I've built in this one operation. We need to extend through your entire organization. I'm the person that can do it. You need to create a position, VP of sales, and I'm your guy, and I'm going to drive some mad revenue for you. Let's create that job.
So awesome.
At first he said, you make great points and I'd love to do it, but no, we're really reluctant to change, and we've never had that job here. So I did what I often did back then. I didn't have a child. I could move around as much as I wanted. I just started talking to other people about, okay, what other jobs are out there? I found a great job in Boston. It was a huge job. And so I called the president of the company again, and I said, hey, we need to meet for lunch. We sat down. I said, I'm going to run my idea by you one last time and tell you why it's so great for you. And he agreed it was great for him. But again, he said, we're just not ready to do it. And I said, well, then I'm here to resign. And he said, what do you mean? I said, I'm going to go take a big job. I got a great job. It's a lot more money, more responsibility. And that's when he said, hang on 1 second. And he went outside and called the CEO, his father. And he came back in 5 minutes later and he said, we just created a brand new job, VP of sales, and I would like it to
Oh, nice. So badass. And you just, my next question was going to be like, how did you, I mean, because your past performance probably gave you the confidence, but like and you learned how to close like early and to be aggressive from your mentors in the radio station. But like, how did you get that confidence to be like, look, this is what you need to change. I'm here to take the responsibility and change it. Like you took your shot, like you knew it was time. You had to take your shot. You had all the data to take the shot and you knew the whole organization, the value and the revenue it would bring. Like, I don't know, like, how'd you get that confidence? How did you do that? Like for the audience that's so scared to take the shot.
So I always do this. What's the worst that can happen, right? Fear is a liar. It's not real. It's what you create in your own mind.
Yeah.
So
I call it false events appearing real.
Exactly. So I just thought to myself, what's the worst that happens? If he says no, that I'm not going to create it, I don't want to be here in this job anymore. I'm bored out of my mind. I need to go do something else. So then I just resign and I leave. Now, again, I will say I did not have a child back then. So for me, it was easy. I was in my late 20s. I could move anywhere I wanted. And that flexibility empowered me with a lot of courage because if he said no to me, it was that simple that I was just packing up my stuff and I was out of there.
That's awesome. So you just knew, what's the worst? That's another micro secret. Like just ask yourself, what's the worst that can happen? And to be honest, if you weren't resigning anyways, at least your boss and team knows that you're hungry for more opportunity. Like anyone that comes to me asking for more opportunity as the CEO of the company here, like I love that. I want people that want to go after it, make shit happen, take on more responsibility, drive more revenue. Like that's what every leader wants is their team to do the same.
So often in business, people are afraid to share their ideas or their aspirations, and then they become angered or enraged the company hasn't identified them to promote them. It is on everyone, on your own personal back to raise your hand and tell your boss, the world, the company, whoever, why you, what is that fit? What is that job? What is your vision? Because no one can read your mind and predict that, and people are just too busy. So I found whether I'm in leadership or I was an account executive, by raising my hand, I at least alerted people that I was ready for advancement. I'm ready to take on more. And it starts that conversation, which then allows you to be on that person's mind and they're going to start thinking about it as well. Some people don't make decisions quickly. So it's really important you raise that hand quickly and let them know so they can start thinking about, why it's going to make sense for them.
Yeah, I love that. Because you're always like, I don't know why, but even before I was an entrepreneur for 2 businesses from college on, and then I went into corporate. And like corporate, you just get programmed to not talk about these ideas. You get programmed not to tell leadership that you want more responsibility, you want to get promoted. What do I need to do to make that happen? But like now that I'm the CEO and founder and probably just like you, like anyone that works for you, like you love hearing that. There's nothing bad that can happen by asking for more responsibility and wanting to do more to drive a big business.
Well, here's the thing. You're absolutely correct. But I would just make this one asterisk. If you are working for an insecure person, if you are working for a small-minded company or a negative toxic culture, they don't always embrace that, aggressive, positive, True. I'm aspiring to move up. But here's the great news. If you raise your hand and share your ideas and your ambitions and you want to move up and they're naysaying you and putting you down, those are the moments you realize I'm not in the right company. There are great companies out there that embrace people who are ambitious and elevate them and cheer them on. And this isn't one of them. So that's one of those moments that you say, red flag, I think I need to start working on my resume and get out of here.
So true. So smart. Yeah. I mean, you don't that's like with anything in life, like whether it's the company, your partner, whatever, your friends, whatever you're doing, right. Like back to your villains chapter, right? Like, dude, if they're not helping you maximize your potential and the potential of others, just kill it, move on. Okay. So, then walk us through what happens next now. So they give you the VP of sales job, right?
Yes.
Because you were going to leave. They're like, all right, fine, done. We'll create it. which by the way, probably didn't cost them like much more, like, you know, like in the grand scheme of like tens or hundreds of millions, like we're talking a drop in the bucket. It doesn't matter.
We're talking hundreds of millions of dollars in revenue. And at the end of my 14-year stint there at the company, I had more than doubled the revenue in my employment there. I was promoted 3 times. And in 2017, I was named one of the most influential women in radio. And 30 days after that magazine came out, I was fired unexpectedly when the CEO that I had worked for 14 years fell ill. He elevated his only daughter to CEO. And she was my arch nemesis. She'd always been the CFO. I was the CRO. So she was coming at things from the angle of let's cut, let's fire people, let's cut pay. Yeah. And I was always coming at things, let's invest, let's, elevate, let's increase revenue. We always came at things from an opposing angle. And frankly, when you're a threat, you will always be a target. And I was a threat to her. So going into that situation, when she was named CEO, I had an idea that she might fire me, but I thought, you know what? She really won't though, because
you're bringing in so much money.
I'm doing so well. That would, be cutting your nose to spite your face. But in the end, never underestimate what emotions and insecurity can do to people. She fired me. So that day I drove home and I went under a weighted blanket and I cried my eyes out. And I decided, you know what? No one's calling. No one knows what's going on. She didn't announce it to anyone. She wanted to keep it quiet. So I decided I'm going to take this into my own hands. And I put a post out on social media and said, I was just fired and it is horrible. And I feel heartbroken and I'm struggling. And if I've ever helped you in any way over the past 14 years at my employment there, I'd like to hear from you now. And that post went viral. Wow,
that's so vulnerable. Like, I love that because I'm super vulnerable on social media. It took me a while to like, was it hard for you to hit? Like, how long was the post? Did it take you a long time to write it? And like, when you say viral, like what happened?
I've learned as I've become older that listening to your inner voice will never steer you wrong, ever, even if it sounds crazy to others in your life. So I had shared with a couple of people what I was doing and they told me, no, don't do this. That's really negative and you're going to lose respect and people won't think as highly about you. But my inner voice said to me, Heather, if people don't know you're available, you're not going to hear about job opportunities or people can't, come to your aid to assist you. So I just said, you know what, I'm just firing it up there. So I just pulled the ripcord and put that post up there. It did not take me more than 5 minutes to write it and put it out there. And immediately people started showing up. And one thing I learned in that moment is when people come to you and say, I'd love to help you, ask for one specific thing. Because what can happen is they get busy, they forget about it. A month later, you reach back and they've moved on. So what I learned and I did very disciplined was every single DM and text I got, I wrote back, hey, it would be great if you could do this. And that's when Froggy from the Elvis Duran show tweeted at me, Heather, huge fan, saw your post. If I can ever help you in any way, let me know. And I tweeted back, yes, I'd like to get on the Elvis Duran show. And he got me on a week later.
Awesome. So, you shared a few micro secrets there. One call to action. So don't do like, hey, I need, hey, can you help me? Can you intro me? Can you send me money? Like you can't do 12 different call to actions. It's like one thing, the one thing. And you'd mentioned like being vulnerable and going with your inner voice. So many people try to be perfect, right? Like you look at Real Housewives, you look at men and women across the board. I love being imperfect and I love talking about being imperfect because no one is perfect. Like it's all bullshit. It's all fake. Like
absolutely.
No one's perfect.
And owning those flaws and celebrating them is what makes you, you. And that's a lot. My keynote speech that I've been doing all around the country the past few months has been a lot of that is really about me sharing my shame, my flaws, my failures. And every time I finish speaking, that's what people come running up to talk to me about. Oh my gosh, that resonates so much with me. Because, hey, guess what? We all have flaws and shortcomings and celebrating them and stepping into them and owning them really allows people to connect on a very real level with you, which allows you to sell and get, whatever your goals are accomplished because
it creates that authenticity. Yeah, that authenticity, that likability, that like relatability per se. Like You
Absolutely.
talk about, hey, I just graduated, then I was great at everything, and then I became CRO. Like, I can't relate to anything.
People are going to distance themselves from you, but when you share those low moments that occurred, in order to get there, and how painful it was, and how you weren't feeling fulfilled, and you weren't happy, and you were losing your hair, and your back went out, those things happened to me. I was so miserable in my old job, and with that woman, the way she treated me, she would walk into the conference room and our executive team was sitting there, and she would say hello to everyone and ignore me. And there were so many negative quips and singling me out, that I can't have a personal brand and I can't have my personal website. And it was a really challenging time for me in the end. And to make that leap, that woman fired me that day. She thought she fired me, but I really fired my villain. So within it was probably 30 days, I really started to take off, and amazing opportunities started showing up. Nothing like what used to happen for me in corporate America. And I truly believe it's because I got out of that toxic environment.
That's incredible. And you said never underestimate what insecurity will do to someone. Like, she could have used that as an opportunity to be like, okay, I'm the CEO. I'm going to work with my CRO, and we're going to change the game and double revenue. Instead, that security just, killed your role, which probably killed growth in the I dealt with a very similar situation, number one top paid person over the CEO and chairman at former companies. And then management tries to cut costs because they think you're getting paid too much. And then then down the line, the company just dramatically drops in revenue because you and I know sales is the lifeblood of every single thing. My whole team that's in sales here at Seamless, they're so lucky that I'm a diehard salesperson, because I will always overinvest in sales, period. I'll overinvest in tech and all that other jazz, but I just know sales is the lifeblood for anything. And we will pay commission to everyone. I don't care what you do and everything that you're preaching. And I can't believe that these insecurities, it seems like they just keep coming up with all these people. And it's why, why?
But it goes back to that facade that some people want to create, that perfection facade, and they don't want to be found out. And if you're out there shining your light and they're feeling uncomfortable, they've got to get out of that pain, and getting rid of me was the easiest way to do it. And I'm so grateful. Today, I'm sitting here a year and 4 months later. I'm so grateful that happened. However, it took me a long time to get to that place, because my emotions were I was so angry and hurt, and I thought I lost everything. I lost my title, my people, my team, my paycheck, and that security that you have in corporate America. And what do I write on my LinkedIn profile? All these crazy questions jumped into my mind, and fear really, took hold of me. But one thing that I've learned in life is just keep moving forward. Even when you don't know what that path is, I didn't know what I was going to do, but I knew if I get on the Elvis Duran show, I'm going to reach a bigger audience, and I need some reach, because I know that from media, that if you've got a message to share, you need to reach more people. So that was just my one goal, getting there. And then on that show, he held me accountable. He said, well, I'm sure you've got a book coming out, Heather, right? And I said, well, of course I do, but I actually didn't. So allowing him to hold me accountable publicly forced me to get on that plane and Google, how do you write a book? What do I do? Can I self-publish? And I learned that I had to sit down and just start writing. And that's what I did. And I put my nose to the grindstone. I was never an author. However, today, not even a year later, you Google me, I don't show up as a media executive. I show up as an author. And it just goes to show that if you focus on what you're doing, put your effort and ambition in it, and get clear on your vision, you can make anything happen, and your life can be completely different in just a matter of months.
That's so crazy. I love hearing that, because so you get on, micro secret there, just keep moving forward, right? From anything good, bad that happens to you. That's killer piece of advice. So the Elvis Duran, just so the audience is aware, just because some of them may not be aware. So Elvis Duran show is one of the top shows in the US on radio, right?
Right.
And then, so you do this vulnerable social media post. Someone from the show reaches out. Who's the person that reaches out to you?
Right. One of, he's got 4 co-hosts with him, and it was one of the co-hosts. And I asked for one specific thing to get me on the show. He did it, and it got me out there, which is what really, forced me or held me accountable to writing the book. And once I decided to do something, I knew I had put it out there publicly. I was getting it done. Yeah. And I kept struggling in my mind. I'm not an author. I'm not a writer. I'm a sales leader and a media executive. And I
go through this stuff right now. Same thing. Keep going though.
Yeah, I had to break through those self-limiting beliefs and realize that there aren't lanes. I was allowing myself to be put in the media lane. But you know what? Why can't I just be Heather? And if I want to write a book, write a flipping book. And if I want to create a product line, I'll create a flipping product line. But now here I am a year and 4 months later, I feel very confident. And that's what, back on that day one, I didn't feel confident. That my confidence took a major hit when I got fired. And it was me along that way, building my confidence back up and remembering the successes I've had and tapping into my memory, my journals to look back and say, wow, I overcame that sexual harassment at work. Oh, wow, I overcame that fear of jumping on a plane and I turned that thing around and I made the company 27 million. And I started reminding myself of my wins and revisiting them. And it really started to create this very true, real confidence within me that I don't want to say it's unbreakable because confidence is high and then it dips and, we all have ebbs and flows. However, I know how to build it back. And that's exactly why I wrote my book, was to share that message and that blueprint with everyone so that everyone has that same opportunity.
That's amazing. And so they invite you on the show to be like a part of a segment, right? Like you weren't running like a weekly show or anything. They're like, hey, we'll have you as a guest on the show.
We're going to have you as a guest and interview you. Yes.
And then you get interviewed and like, did you prep? How much time did you have prep from like them reaching out to you being on the show? Was it like a day, a week, a month?
But there wasn't any direction. It was one of those things that I didn't know what I was walking into, but something inside of me told me, just show up. And when I get nervous for things like that, one of the things I do is I have a playlist that I access. And, right now it's Kendrick Lamar. I Love Myself. And, some of these really, for me, I love hip hop and it's always hip hop, but I play these same songs, 3 or 4 songs, right before I go into any big event. I spoke at the WNBA last year, and going into that event, I play the playlist and I smell lavender because for me that smell is so calming. But the combination of those two things allow me to then visualize what I'm about to do. And I start remembering other times I killed it doing something huge. And then I start feeling that. So the feelings come into me. I see myself killing it there. I hear the music and it's happening. And the next thing you know, I drop the earbuds. I walk out on stage. And whether it be the Elvis Duran show or Harvard, I'm going to teach a class at Harvard, which is another one of those, oh my gosh, I can't teach a class at Harvard moments. And I have to remind myself again, oh yeah, I can. And Heather, remember when you thought you couldn't do this? You thought you couldn't be an author. And then I start saying, oh, I'm teaching a class at Harvard, but it's training yourself to do this. And it really works.
That's amazing. Just show up is the micro secret there. So you've got a few days to go on the show. You're like, okay, I got to do it. Before I get into how you did that, what other music you got on? So you got Kendrick Lamar. I love hip hop too. And I love EDM. What are like the 2 or 3 songs? Like you're about to do keynote, like massive presentation in front of thousands of people. What other pump up music do you listen to?
Yeah. So my other 2 favorites, people probably, I'm not going to like this, but that's okay. I love them, is Drake, Nice for What? And
I love that song.
I love that song.
Money.
And Kanye, Black Skinhead. And I love that song. So for me, it's, there are songs that represent something so meaningful to me. It represents me stepping into my power, my strength. And when I hear those songs, it's just, oh my gosh, watch out.
Yeah, no, those are some of my favorites too. And I also like God's Plan too. Like I just think about like anything that helps elevate you to like conquer the world, right? And just go for it,
Yes.
That's awesome. So they tell you you're on in 3 days or whatever. Like at that point, you just left the company. You probably didn't even have a strategy for like what you were going to do with your career, right?
No, I did not have a strategy at that point in time. Mm-mm.
So you go on and they're just like, hey, Heather, what's going on? like, how did it go? Walk us through that experience in the station.
I walked on and he said, you were just named one of the most influential women in radio, chief revenue officer, responsible for hundreds of millions of dollars for 14 years of the same company, promoted 3 or 4 times. Something doesn't add up here. What happened? And that's how he started the interview.
Oh, wow. Just straight into the gossip. So did you kind of like go into like, here was the story, like, here's the
Yeah,
background?
I just shared my story, my truths, and and what happened to me, and it was a great experience. It blew up my social media. It held me accountable to write a book, and for me, that was really the kick that got me making the decision. I'm going to work for myself, and I'm going to start my own company.
That's awesome. So you basically tell your story, and then he just asks you, or he or she asks you, hey, oh, and you're going to write a book too about this, right? Like, is that how it went down?
That was it. Yeah, it was really simple.
And then you're just like, yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. It's going to be coming
exactly.
out soon.
Absolutely. I said it'll be out within the year.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, it's so funny. I mean, similar thing. Like I've always dreamed about doing this Sales Secrets book, and I always put it off every year. And I'm like, you know what? Throwing up the landing page, gonna sell pre-copies, gonna tell everyone we're doing it. And then like I have no other choice. It sounds like you did the same thing. Now, how many listeners are on this station?
10 million. It's a nationally syndicated
Oh my
program.
gosh. 10 million people. They get introduced to you. They hear this story about your whole background. You commit to do. Did you even have a website like when you went on the show?
I had a website, yes.
Okay, so you were able to like capture some of the traffic then.
Sure. But I didn't have a product to sell yet. However, to me, that was really the catalyst for me to going to work for myself, writing the book. And I'm so grateful for that experience. It was amazing.
That's awesome. So then you leave the show. You're like, that's it. I'm going to write this book. And then did you have to strategize like the products that you were going to create? And like what were you thinking? What was next after that?
I just wrote. And then once I wrote, I had to find an editor. That's step 2. Found the editor, and he really helped accelerate the process. Then I had to Google, how do you self-publish? So I had to figure out, what do I want the cover to look like? What do I want the design and layout to look like? What are the colors I'm going to use? What printing company will I use? Do I buy 500 books, 10,000 books? There's price breaks. So I did an analysis on how much more do I want to invest in this? All that stuff. I was a novice, and I learned once you've done something once, it's not so
forever.
scary anymore, right? So I know how to do it. And it's just figuring, every time I do one of these new things, then I got picked up by the Harry Walker Speaker Agency. And I thought, well, can I be a professional speaker and command this, huge fees? And you know what? I took that next step, and I showed up for the meeting, and I started seeing, oh yeah, I can. Okay, I need a demo reel. I need a speaker reel. And you just keep learning every step of the way. I need rave reviews. So I need to start asking for reviews. And I just kept learning and learning along the way. I need referrals and recommendations. And it really
you
snowballed.
learned so quick too, like year and a half, like this, year and 4 months. It's not a lot of time to self-publish a book. Like, what was one of the biggest things that helped you? All these authors that I work with. What were some of the top things that you heard or read that helped you crank out the content for your book? And by the way, so the book, everyone, Confidence Creator. It's literally one of the Amazon bestsellers in self-motivation and confidence. And part 1 is all about confidence. Part 2 is all about perception. Part 3 is all about adversity. Part 4 is all about fear. 5 is finding your voice. And then part 6 is taking action. Part 7 is asking for help. It's incredible the way that you structured it. All the tips in each section, like they're incredible. How did you write all this so quickly? Some people take like 20 years.
Well, I just really focused. It's not, people overcomplicate things, and you can sit forever at a table and say, well, maybe I should take notes first, or maybe I should do an outline. Well, you know what I figured out by Googling? Just start writing. So instead of sitting there driving myself crazy, I just would take a pen and start writing. And that's what got everything, I was able to finish so quickly because I just didn't do anything else. I wrote. I didn't sit and think about this and that, and I just wrote. That's
awesome. And then did you how long from start to finish did you have to crank that out?
I started writing, gosh, it must have been October, and I was done in January, and then the self-publishing process took longer. The book launched May 22nd of last year. And the self-publishing process takes a little bit of time. because I had to narrate the Audible version and sit in studio, and
that takes so
a lot
long.
of time.
Yeah, Audible is one of my investors, Don Katz. He's amazing. It's funny, a writer loves sales. This guy who's a writer that started Audible just loves sales. It's so funny. But I hear everyone sitting in that booth is like, that's tough. You'd think it's awesome, but don't you have to you have to just keep doing it over and over again, like different sections and stuff. Brutal. Awesome. So then now you have to sell yourself, which you've never done before. You've never written a book before, right? Then you've never sold yourself as a speaker. And the secret, well, I guess that leads us up, I guess that leads us up into the secret. Sales secrets from the top 1%. The world's best sales experts share their secrets to sales success. Heather Monahan, what is your number one top sales secret?
The number one secret to true success in sales or in anything is creating your own confidence. Because when you are your most confident self, there is nothing that you will be afraid of and nothing will stop you.
Oh, man. Okay. So creating your own confidence. That was so concise, by the way. I love that. What does creating your own confidence mean? I want to get into the what, why, and how for the audience. So what, in your opinion, is creating your own confidence? What does that mean?
So, for everyone has different holdbacks and challenges. Some people aren't investing in themselves. They're not putting themselves first. Maybe they're not listening to their intuition and their inner voice. Maybe they're not celebrating their progress. And so you need to start journaling. Maybe they don't know how to visualize, or maybe they don't own any mantras or positive affirmations. Maybe they don't leave themselves reminders. Maybe they have negative people bringing them down. There are so many different elements involved in creating confidence, and it really is about the individual and where they're struggling or being short-sighted and shining some light on that. Maybe they need to step into their shame and start owning some failures and putting it out there to the world, because all of those different things create confidence.
That's amazing. And then, why is creating confidence so important, right? Now we've got the what, and then why should the audience try to learn, master, and execute this secret?
Because operating without confidence will never allow you to reach your full potential. You won't be able to ask for that next job. You won't go on that one more call because you're petrified someone might say no. You won't bring that amazing idea that you have in your mind to life because you don't want others to tell you it's no good. Creating confidence means that all that stuff can happen, but you're still going to be okay.
Oh, that's amazing. And then for the how, right? The actionable tips, recommendations for how can the audience create confidence to their key to success, to maximize their success today after reading your chapter, after watching this episode. How do you build people up who have no confidence or who may have some and need to get to the top level?
Start with your baseline, take your temperature. If you have no confidence, great. We've got nowhere to go but up. I'm so excited. My son taught me when he would go into basketball games, write a note on your shoe, because halfway through the game, you might be struggling. But before the game, you're feeling okay. Now you can look down and remind yourself, hey, I can do all things. I just needed that reminder. Surround yourself with people who are further along than you. They're going to help be your cheerleaders and show you ways that you can get ahead and show you that it can be done. There's so many flipping ways to create confidence. Doing different and new things will allow you to create confidence, because you'll see, wow, I didn't die. I'm still alive. I'm still here. I can take on new things and new approaches, and I'm going to make it. And I mean, I have 43 chapters about, different tactics and ways.
Yeah, I was about to say, I love the idea though about trying new things. That's a great one. And having that positive outlook, if you're at the bottom, anywhere you could go is up. And, you said the secret earlier in the interview, just take the shot. You've got nothing to lose. What's the worst that can happen? And that, it never rarely happens. The worst thing never happens. It's that fear that you had mentioned, it's not there. That's amazing. Creating confidence is your key to success. If you want more takeaways on how to execute creating confidence, you have to pick up the book, Confidence Creator, #1 on Amazon. They could also get it on your website, right? Where's the website? You can go to my website,
heathermonahan.com. You can follow me on any social platforms. I'm on everything at Heather Monahan, and my book is on Amazon and Audible, Confidence Creator.
Confidence creator. So go out there, go to heathermonahan.com, buy it from there first, or buy it from Amazon. We got everything. And then Heather's active on LinkedIn. She's active everywhere on social. She's amazing. If you want to learn how to create confidence to maximize your success, connect, follow, subscribe to Heather Monahan. And Heather, thank you so much for joining us today. And thank you, audience, for joining us for Sales Secrets from the Top 1%, where the world's best sales experts share their secrets to sales success. Pre-order a copy of the book at secretsalesbook.com. Order at secretsalesbook.com. Thank you for tuning into this episode of Sales Secrets from the Top 1%. We release new episodes every Monday and Thursday, so make sure you subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube to never miss an episode.